In 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, online at WTKA.com. Sam Webb, Ira Weintraub on the other side, and joining me as they do in the 9 o'clock hour every single Thursday. My guys, my boys, my fellas from the MGoBlog crew, the MGoBlog Roundtable. Joining us is starting off with the man that started it all over at MGoBlog, Brian Cook. Brian, how are you this morning?
I'm well.
Yeah, man, that's good. I was concerned because I know, man, this following basketball and basketball recruiting can be frustrating, but it's good that we're starting off on a good note. We already talked to Seth Fisher. Seth, good morning. How are you again?
Good morning. I got football. I'm all right.
And then, of course, the venerable one himself, Mr. Craig Ross. Craig, how are you?
I'm good, but dying since I've seen a lot of Toledo basketball for the past couple years, and uh,
You don't
I
like Ray
don't know.
J. Dennis?
I love Ray J.
Oh,
Dennis, but I also love two other guys in that team who I think are just about as good as Ray J. Dennis, and for some reason not on Michigan's radar. Maybe they're not in the transfer portal. That's probably the case. But they had three really nice players, and anyone who saw Shoemade, a big guy who played center for them, but it's a power forward, and another guy who's a 3-4, and Milner, wonderful player, as good as Ray J, I think. Both seniors, but I don't think either one is in the portal. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm a big Ray J fan.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in hearing your breakdown of Ray J coming up. But
Yeah.
let's set the stage, and then Brian, I want you to react. So, uh, I first heard that there were some issues with Caleb Love a couple of weeks ago. I actually got a call from a coach of another high major who said I heard Caleb Love isn't getting in, and did some checking and hearing there were some issues that he was going to have to move past or get past, and that's around the same time that he made that tweet where he said, "Hey, forget all the rumors. I'm coming to Michigan." All right. So at that point, I'm thinking, oh, maybe they're figuring out some kind of workaround, like they were attempting to do with Xavier Worthy, trying to make things work with him. And they made some accommodations. He wound up choosing another option. But then time passed, and I got a call yesterday from another guy saying, hey, I'm hearing Caleb Love is not going to be getting into Michigan. I said, you know what? I had heard that was the case. Let me check to see. Before that, Brian, I had got word last Friday that Ray J. Dennis was on campus. And I was thinking at the time, man, okay, we put that out there, but I'm thinking to myself, this doesn't make a lot of sense given who they got and given what they need. But hey, maybe they're just trying to stack, bucket getters. Didn't check at that time on the Caleb Love piece until yesterday, at which point it was confirmed to me that he was not able to transfer to Michigan, that it had been determined and that he would not be coming to Ann Arbor. So, Brian, against that backdrop, your reaction to the news.
Well, I don't like it. Um, so the thing is, though, is like if you do end up falling into Ray J. Dennis is a guy who I saw play in that NIT game, and I was like, Michigan should get on that dude. And he has a 120 O rating. He had like 29% usage. He's a good shooter inside and out. He's got an incredible assist rate to turnover rate. Like, he's a guy who, honestly, if you were telling me I could pick between the two, I would pick Ray J.
I would too.
Um,
Me too. Incidentally,
so
easy choice.
Ditto.
So, like, he's. I mean, he's not a guy who's 6'5" like Caleb Love, like who has all that 5-star NBA shaped body, but he's a really good college player, and he's a graduate. So,
So we don't have to deal with these people again?
but yeah, so like it's amazing how you get a new president in who's supposed to be the guy who's like, yeah, sports are important, and we need to make sure that that's a reasonable thing. And you're rejecting credits from a guy who went to the University of North Carolina. Like, that's not, a junior college or Michigan State. It's UNC. You got to be kidding me. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, if I was the president of the University of Michigan, I would fire the entire transfer department. I'd just be like, you're gone. We can replace you with other people. who will do your menial jobs and not be so annoying. But
I
But
think
wait,
it's simpler than that. He just has to you just have to create a policy because it's
no,
not admissions; it's
at this
transfer
point,
credits.
At this point, I just want to fire the admissions department because they're so blinkered about like, oh, well, you got to do this and this and this. It just completely ignores the larger picture of the university. All of those people are Melvin. Was it got the guy in the basement in office space who's like, I got my stapler, and they're all talking about their staplers, and nobody cares about the staplers. Just admit the guy. He's going to be here for a year. He's going to play basketball. He's going to be a professional basketball player. It is not a sin. It is not a stain on the University of Michigan if you have a guy who plays basketball here and you transfer some credits in from the University of North Carolina.
well, let me quibble with this a bit.
Fire them all. No quibbling.
I'm going to quibble with this
You
a
need
bit.
to agree, and I'm not hearing anything else from you.
Well, I'm going to disagree in some small part. And that is the University of North Carolina, last time I checked, was the school who was under the gun from the NCAA for offering fake classes to their athletes. And do you recall what the
They supposedly fixed that, though.
Well, no. Do you remember what
do
you remember what their defense was to that?
What?
Their defense was, yeah, they're fake classes. We admit it. But any student at this university can take those fake classes. Therefore, it's not an NCAA violation. That was their defense. The most cynical defense in the history of defenses in the NCAA.
Sure, but
they're accredited.
I'm not saying
no. You have to deal with people and organizations on the level they're dealing with.
Are you
the
telling
way
me
that
that
you deal with transfer credits from UNC is not the way that you deal with the NCAA. The NCAA are not serious classes?
People. I am shocked that there's gambling going on in this establishment.
Everyone should see Casablanca once a year. So, in any event, yeah, I hear otherwise, Brian. I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure it's so much admissions though.
What's I don't know.
It's the individual colleges I think more so than actually admissions.
All right, well, then I'm firing LS&A. There's no more LS&A at Michigan.
All right. So but here's what this does do. I think it firmly establishes the reality of the situation for Michigan athletics, not just football or basketball, Michigan athletics when it comes to portal strategy. This is a topic that we have beaten to death over the past year because we were talking about it as it relates to football and basketball too. But how do they operate in this era where teams are fortifying themselves with portal reinforcements? How can Michigan get in on that? And really it required sort of a focused strategy of what can we get in routinely? First and second year guys, grad transfers. Are there going to be some exceptions to the rule? Sure, but what is clearly the case is you're going to have less issue getting in first and second year guys and grad transfers. We've seen a meaningful pivot in that way on the football side of things. Now, was there reason to think that it was going to work out with Caleb Love? That he was going to graduate from North Carolina in 3 years? I don't think they would have explored this possibility if there weren't. But what this says to me, now I'm not critical of them recruiting Caleb Love, but from this point, it should be 100% clear that it is largely a waste of time to be looking at student athletes in the portal that are 3 years into their career. Here and there, if you think there's a chance they might graduate in that period of time, fine. But otherwise, guys, you tell me what you think. I think that has to be the huge exception to the rule, and they need to be 80, 90% of their energy first and second year guys and grad transfers.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, this leads to a question for you guys is, given this, why, Michigan never announced that Caleb Love was coming here. The announcements were always external. They were either from media sources or Twitter or whatever. Michigan never announced it. And a few days ago, and I don't know if they've announced Nimari Burnett or Trey Jackson yet. I mean, do you know?
I haven't seen formal acknowledgement of it.
I haven't seen formal acknowledgement on any of these guys. And a couple of days ago, I was saying to a friend, none of these guys have been formally acknowledged by the athletic department or the university, and so there's something wrong, right? There's something wrong, because you would think that you would see some formal announcement. I mean, Nimari Burnett, do we know he's graduated? I don't know that.
Graduating. Isn't he? I thought he was just going to try to transfer in.
I don't know.
Because he's got a couple semesters at Texas Tech and
he's got a couple semesters at Texas Tech. Well, how many of those credits will Michigan take? None. And so it isn't clear to me that Nimari Burnett has either transferred or what his situation is when the university hasn't acknowledged it yet. What about Jackson? I haven't heard anything there either. Now, it doesn't mean they're not coming here, but I suspect they probably are.
I will say this.
Yeah.
I had been hearing for weeks that there were issues with Caleb Love. I have not heard anything like that with regard to Trey Jackson, who would be a grad transfer, and with Nimari Burnett, it's reasonable to bring up because given what I just said about recruiting, 3-year guys. But I mean, look, if a guy is willing to give up some credits and transfer, like Shea Patterson was, cool. But the difference with Caleb Love is he was supposedly alleged, or maybe he's graduating. Again, I hadn't heard that, but the expectation with Caleb Love was that he was going to be a graduate. When that didn't happen, that triggered all the sequence of events that.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about on the last segment a little bit it's exponential how hard it gets to get somebody in. If they're close to graduating, it's next to impossible, because then you have a huge amount of credits that get a huge discount, especially at the high level classes. The lower level classes are actually a lot easier. You get a guy who's at the end of his sophomore year, it's actually still not that hard, because American History Intro 101 and 102 transfer directly. You don't lose, there's no loss there. Where the loss is when you get to history of French cinema or something, where if we don't have the class and they have the class, Michigan looks at it and goes, okay, that's worth 1 credit here. That's where they have problems.
Yeah. So, all right. Caleb Love's not coming. Ray J. Dennis, you said so we got this where it's like calling around Ray J. Dennis. Oh, yeah, he's on campus right now. Like, Eureka.
Right now?
No. This was when I got the news Friday and put it out on Friday. He's on campus right now. Michigan's hosting him on a visit. They are in prime contention. He's an Illinois guy, acquainted with Juwan. They obviously just saw one another playing each other in the NIT. Clearly, they were able to sell him on what the opportunity looks like, because they had knowledge at that point that Caleb Love wasn't coming. So let's talk about the fit first. Craig, talk about his game, and then fellas, let's talk about the fit here with Michigan, which I think would be better actually than Caleb Love.
Yeah, the fit is better than Caleb Love. I mean, Ray J. Dennis is an unselfish player. He can run a team from the point. He can play at the 2. He was 36.5% from 3. He's a good shooter, a 78% free throw shooter, a good 2-point shooter. He doesn't force shots. He's a nice fit, because you could play him with Doug at the point, and he's a pretty good defender too, or at least from my view, and you could play him at the point, or you could play him at the 2, and he will fit with other guys, in my opinion. He doesn't turn it over, and his assist rate is quite good. So he's a player that I like a lot. I think he's probably an easier fit for Michigan than Caleb Love, who's going to take more work, who may be a more talented player, but he's going to be a more jaggedy fit with what Michigan has. So yeah, I mean, but if you said, would you rather have Caleb Love or Ray J. Dennis for 1 year, I'll take Ray J. my
Yeah,
impression.
I mean,
Or Seth?
I track two stats that most people in basketball don't look at: the percentage of points that you created yourself, right, versus percentage of points assisted. His point guards are always low, but his is actually even lower for a point guard. He creates 71% of his own points, which means that there's room for him to he can be a more efficient basketball player if he's on the court with Dougie, or he actually can run the point. He is a pure point guard. The other thing is assist rate at home versus assist rate on the road, because certain teams, Michigan State and Northwestern, are the worst at it in the country. Just give out assists for anything. So it's really hard to trust assist rate. And you look at like Boo Booey, and people are like, oh, look at all the assists he's got.
Yeah.
No, he really doesn't. That's just Northwestern counts him that way. Ray J. Dennis's assist rate on the road and at home are the same exact numbers. It's 32%. It's 32 assist rate versus a 12% turnover rate. That is exactly what you want to see for a point guard transfer. This is a better prospect than Caleb Love. He's not short. He's 6'2", right? He plays some defense. The only really inefficient shot he had was 2-point jumpers, and that's true for everybody. And you can cut down on those on a better offense. So maybe their offense was really good, so that his offense might not, translate as well to Michigan. But that is a perfect fit at a point guard. That's not a guy that you like, where do you fit him in? That's a guy like, okay, let's build around that.
Yeah, the problem is Illinois. Illinois lost again 7 of their 13 players, I believe, and they lost their 5-star point guard, in December because he just was pissed off with Underwood or whatever and just left, and so they have no point guard on that team right now at Illinois, as far as I can tell. Or this stuff is hard to figure out. I spent some time yesterday going through every team in the Big Ten, trying to figure out, well, who actually do they have and who don't they have. And as far as I could tell, Illinois got a bunch of 2s, and they've got a center, Dane Dania, and they've got a power forward coming in from on an up transfer. But they don't, as far as I can tell, I don't see a point guard there. And
But
so
Brian,
that's a good situation to some extent. If Ray J says, no, I'm a point guard, I want to play point guard, that may feel more comfortable to him than coming into Michigan where they're sitting with Doug and still Jalen Llewellyn. And, I don't know.
But you could play with Dougie, and you're going to play over Jalen Llewellyn. And Brian, you don't have to play for Brad Underwood. That's a thing, right?
That's a thing.
I mean, you'd think, right? Like if you have the option, he's like really orange, like his shirt is orange and his suit is orange, and then his face is orange.
His hair's orange too.
He's like Brian Kelly, except it's purple. I mean, he's orange instead of purple. And I'm just like, man, that guy's angry. That guy's really angry about everything. So you gotta chill out. But
He ran a 5-star guy off before the year was even halfway through. Like, come on, man.
Well, I might not put that one on Underwood.
Okay.
Think
Still, it's conspicuous. And it also conspicuous is that wasn't Terrence Shannon's first choice. Like, if you look at Terrence Shannon as a guide, Terrence Shannon was going to go to Michigan. All things being equal, but all things weren't equal. Well, they are for Ray J. Dennis. Don't go play for Brad Underwood.
Well, yeah, you'd hope not. I mean, I remember I saw him play in the NIT. I was like, Michigan should get that guy. Mm-hmm. And Craig's right too. The other 2 guys he mentioned, I was like, Michigan should get that guy too. They had the number 5 offense in America last year. They couldn't play any defense because they didn't have a center. But in terms of like putting together a team that can play, I mean, that team can play.
Yeah, he could actually shoot. That was one of the things that jumped out to me about we talked about it when they got him. I mean, he took a lot of threes to be a 29% 3-point shooter. A lot. Like, he kept shooting. Shooting.
I mean, there's a version of Caleb Love that fits in an offense that's, a 20% usage guy that's probably a pretty efficient shooter, because his catch and shoot was not elite, but it was the best facet of his game. And the problem with him is that he just took Remember when she played LSU and they had that first round pick who just all he did was do ISO and jack it up, but he was pretty good
Yeah.
at it. That was
Yeah.
Caleb Love, but Caleb Love can't do that.
Yeah, he
which
played
is
for
why he's not.
Brooklyn.
Which is why he's not in the NBA right now, because that kind of like shot making is just not part of his game. But there's an efficient version of Caleb Love out there, and someone else is going to try to explore that, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, as of this moment, assuming we have Namari Burnett, assuming we have Trey Jackson, Michigan is still short 3 guys. I mean, and they desperately need a center, which I'm not hearing much noise about. Maybe Sam is, and they probably could use another big guy, and they need a guard. They need Ray J. Dennis or someone like him. There's a song by the Violent Femmes that goes way back. We're desperate, get used to it. That's beginning what Michigan basketball is beginning to feel like.
Yeah. Cam Thomas, who you're talking about, Brian. Yeah, just a tremendous scorer. You like him taking a lot of shots. You're right. If Caleb Love was anything close to Cam Thomas, he'd be in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
But he's not. My focus has been for the last 24 hours on catching up with Ray J. Dennis. But I do know that, and it's not a news flash. They are scouring the portal, but I think with a different focus, with a different focus, kind of more aligned with what we've been talking about. This is the reality of their situation. Your pool is limited. Now, the fortunate aspect of this is you are still in the window where there are more grad transfers because of the COVID year. And the first and second year guys, the pool that includes them is deeper. Problem for them is you're so much deeper in the cycle now. So what's out there? There's a piece that Zach Shaw just did talking about 10 guys. I recommend checking that out over on the MichiganInsider.com, and then I'll dig deeper into how many of those are actual guys that Michigan is targeting. But I'm trying to catch up with Ray J. Dennis now to see. Is it Baylor? Hard to believe that he would want to get back that far away from home again after coming back closer from Boise State, given the option that Illinois and Michigan are. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Things may be better than they seem. It's possible that at this point the coaching staff is completely under the radar and on some sort of silent mode.
I look at brass tacks. I do think it's a bit of it. I think the Caleb Love thing caused a scramble.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any two ways about it. They thought they were going to have Caleb Love, and you had to pivot as a result. Now, fortunately, Ray J. Dennis is out there, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is there are a dearth of comparable options. So if you don't get Ray J. Dennis, man, wow. You're talking about the other spots they have to fill. Ray J. Dennis fills the biggest hole. There's a lot riding on whether they get him or not.
Yeah, and well done. Like, you think you can get this guy in, and now Michigan's scrambling, and it's just, I cannot believe that this university is like, okay, this is the important thing. The important thing is that the guy who went to UNC for 3 years doesn't get in because we're dicks.
You can't say that on the air.
What?
You can't say that. You cannot say that.
All right, dump me.
Where's the dump button?
Dump me.
You can't say that. Ira, are you awake at the wheel over there, Mr. Weintraub?
Technically, it's not illegal for what he just said. It's not illegal. The FCC is not going to come calling us, but
but like
legally fine. Brian, you're okay.
You're jerking around guys who are you going to transfer to Michigan? Because this is the second straight year where a guy has been heavily in the process of transferring to Michigan and couldn't do it. So there's going to be guys in the future who are going to be like, I'm not even going to bother with this school because I have no idea if my credits are going to transfer. And that just seems like, what is the upside for Michigan? What is this retained purity going to get you? Are you going to get into heaven? Is it Michigan's going to get into heaven?
Maybe.
I don't know, Brian. My friend from Illinois said that he had to throw out his degree. He just after they let Terrence Shannon in last year, he
Oh.
he just he,
So
they,
here's- so
He just
so-
burned it. He
Yeah,
burned his
everyone,
degree.
it's not worth anything anymore. Everybody who had a job who went to Illinois lost their jobs
Oh,
after they
wow.
let in Terrence Shannon.
So I mean, look, to frame that debate, this is if you're going to see movement on this, this is a Santono thing, is it not?
It's got to be.
This is a meter that he moves
Yeah.
if it's going to get moved.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
it's impossible for me to believe that he hasn't decided it shouldn't be moved or he can't move it. Because this happened last year with Shannon. The Caleb Love thing has been happening for a while. And so it's impossible for me to believe that Ono either has no power, does not want to change it, or can't change it, or something. Because he's pretty, I mean, this is not a guy who lets stuff fester as far as I can tell.
It's just it's got to come from Santa because it's a question of what's the priority of the university. All right, if they LSA, those people in there who are looking at the credits and deciding what transfers and what doesn't, they've got their standards because they don't want to have to change. And they're like, this is our process. Here's what we do. People live with it. That's because we're Michigan. Blah blah blah. If we were recruiting somebody to the university because they're going to help the university, there should be a different process. Yes, there always should be. There always has been different standards for athletes. And to have some little piece that like we keep on running up against is just ridiculous, especially considering this is a major part of how you put a roster together today. So this has to change now. Maybe could have gotten around it. Football, it's a little easier because it's just so many more football players out there, and you can actually get kind of a lower level quality level of a guy because they're more equal. In basketball, it's really hard. There's not a lot of Caleb Loves out there. So you want to add another layer to something that's already so difficult because the guy's got to be a program fit. The guy's got to be, fit with the other players on the team. The guy's got to have the skills that you need. And he's got to be really good at basketball, which is, not that many people to begin with. One guy on your team makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
so
you
we're
got
not
to
the
take
team
into
that's going
account.
to play Hunter.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, in
Yeah.
NIL, you got to get
Yeah.
over what is often an obstacle, which is NIL.
Right. So you could be that program if you want to say, look, if we get a Hunter Dickinson, we're going to pay him $1 million a year, and he's just going to be, and we're just going to hand him money. And you come to Michigan, we're going to get freshmen, and we're going to keep them for 5 years because we're going to pay them more than they'll ever make in the NBA. You could be that team, but we're not that team. If you want to be the team that doesn't play the portal as well, you just put way too many restrictions to make it possible to have a team. You're going to be Stanford or Northwestern.
All right. It is 9:34 on a Thursday morning. We need to get to a break. We'll come back on the other side, see if there are any closing remarks on this discussion. We do have a lacrosse team to talk about that is on a run. We got a lot of people in the comments wanting us to shout them out, which we will. Giving them a shout out on the other side. The game time has been announced for the game. There is news apparently out of the ACC about how some of those teams, at first it was a 7-team conglomerate, and then Louisville said, please let us be a part of it too. They came in and said, hey, we are exploring ways to get out of this deal. What does that mean for expansion? So a lot to get to on the other side here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTK, The Ticket.
Clear on the radio.
The one thing I can say about Illinois, that's probably going to be a really bad team. I mean, they've got Ty Rogers and Sincere Harris at the 2. They've got Dane Dania at the center. And the
How is
two
that guy's name not Danger? Can we just
It
change
is-
it to Danger?
It is danger.
It is
Really?
Danger. Okay,
It
I
is danger.
mispronounced
Yes.
Danger. I mean, if you have that name, you got to use
I
it.
know. I looked this up because I did the
Yeah.
preview for Illinois last year, and I was like, please be Dane Danger, and it was.
It was okay.
Dane Danger. How
And
about
then
that guy? We need a center. Why don't we go get that guy?
they're bringing in a guy from Utah Valley who's a 2 guard who's not that good, so they're loading up with 2s. And they got a guy, Quincy Guerrero from Oregon via Syracuse, and he's a power forward. He doesn't look that good. I mean, I don't know what they've got there. To me, it looks like a really crappy team, and Underwood can't win last year with 3 NBA guys and a 5-star point guard.
Or the year before that.
Or, yeah.
I mean, or the year before that. I mean, the dude
Yeah.
is not a great coach.
And the other guys who were decent transferred out. Epps went to, I think, Georgetown maybe, and Lieb went to Illinois State, and Melendez, I think, went to Georgia. So, I mean, they, you know, I don't know.
Weird. His Oklahoma State team was so good.
It was good. They did have good teams.
That was one of my favorite
They
Michigan
just
basketball games to watch.
Yeah, that was a fun game. The Michigan Georgia game or Oklahoma State game where
Oklahoma
they
State
just
game, yeah.
ran and ran and ran. It was
Yeah,
a fun game.
they
Yeah,
got
they
beat.
lost. They
Yeah.
still lost. Yeah. And so I don't know. I have to believe logically, unless he wants to go back home, and I don't know how close University of Illinois is to his home, but unless that's the thing, it's hard for me to believe he would go there versus
Me too.
Michigan.
Me too. I mean, Michigan is close
Yeah.
enough to home that you would think that it would be negligible
Mhm.
for him. I mean, Baylor, that's what would make me say, man, you experience maybe not winning on that level, but you experience being that far away from home.
Unless it's still a money deal. Because, if it's a money deal, Michigan's going to lose that one with Baylor or Illinois, probably. So,
Yeah, we shall see. I hope to get the word is he'll have a decision within a week. That's the word. So I'll hope to be able to catch up with him today. I had to chase his number down. He has people kind of hoarding the contact information as if we have any influence. You don't have any influence on these guys. No. So anyway, but I got it. So I'm trying to chase him down. See what he said.
I have some contacts at UT. I should call them. So.
They're not going to talk to you with that sweatshirt on, Craig.
Probably not. Yeah.
Hey, look at me. I'm a friend of Toledo. All the Toledo guys know me. They're going to talk to me.
Yeah.
Wearing a Bowling Green sweatshirt.
Yes, back on radio in 30 seconds.
You guys see the McMurphy or comments from McMurphy about Wisconsin or Washington and Oregon being vetted?
I did. And I interpreted them too. That's coming from Washington and Oregon.
Yeah, but what is that?
They've been vetted.
That mean?
And then we said no. But so
he
if you take
vetted
the first
and
half
cleared,
of that sentence, huh?
He said vetted and cleared.
Yeah,
vetted
he said
cleared.
vetted
Yeah,
cleared.
Yeah, their academics are fine.
Back in about 10 seconds,
We know
guys.
exactly what they're worth. And we said no. They were vetted and cleared before the Big Ten said, because we can get into this in the next segment, but it's all about money. It's all about
coming back live on radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider Sports Talk 1050 WTKA online at WTK.com. Hey, so are you any relation to Darius A. Cuff? We got a Jason A. Cuff in the chat. I just want to know. Just respond in the mentions if you're any relation to Darius A. Cuff, who is a ball player, an absolute ball player, getting it done for Cast Tech. So let us know. Let us know in the comments section. Inquiring minds want to know. But fellas, any parting shot? Oh, it's your it's his nephew. All right. Hey, well, your nephew is a ball player, Jason. Big time ball player. Love his game. Clearly the number one player. And you think about the opportunity to maybe pair him with a Trey McKinney and to pair them with I guess we got to talk about the commitment. There was a commitment since we were last on, right? With Fat in the fold here at Michigan right now, Darrell Brooks. So have you guys watched this film? What do you guys think of Darrell Fat Brooks?
Well, I haven't watched all of his film. I've just watched the highlight tapes and the stuff that's easily available. I haven't watched whole game film. He's a good athlete, not a great jumper, however. He is a good passer. He's not a guy that wows you with his passing, but he seems to be a solid passer. He seems to be a good defender. I think he's the kind of guy who's going to play for 3 or 4 years. He doesn't shoot the three, and I think in his 7 EYBL games he shot a total of 6 threes. So he isn't comfortable shooting the three, and his 2-point jump shot is real. It's I mean, he has a legitimate jump shot, which isn't usual, at least mechanically, and so that's a good thing. I think he can become a higher percentage shooter because he is mechanically good with this jump shot. You know, people who've watched him. Oh, I heard him interviewed. Was he interviewed with you, Sam? Was that the interview? I love the kid's interview. He's a very mature, smart kid. You know, he doesn't seem full of himself at all, and so I think it's a good choice for Michigan. He's sitting around 100 to 130 over in the country, and so that's the kind of kid that I think Michigan should get and develop and bring along. And he's not going to be an immediate impact star, but I think over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, he can be a good, solid player in the program, and maybe better than that. He reminds me of the kid at Hogard. If I was gonna compare him to a player, I'd compare him to Hogard at Michigan State, a guy who isn't a great shooter, probably has better mechanics than Hogard, but is sort of a big, solid guy who can pass the ball, play defense, run a game. So yeah, I like him.
Yeah, man. Watching him over the years,
Mhm.
that's not bad, Craig. I mean, I see a lot of Namari. There are a lot of similarities with Namari.
Okay.
Big body guy who can get downhill. He's not as big as Namari, but big
Or Hogard,
body defender, can stay in front of you, long arms, can finish through contact.
Yep.
A guy who, I was talking to a coach about this from another program the other day. He said, "Man, I don't know how much of a point guard he is." I think that in the times that I've seen him play anyway, that he's been more comfortable in that role than I expected him to be.
Yeah,
Good
I think he can play the point. I mean, I think he probably is a point, at least, right now. Now, I guess my biggest he does play downhill. He will go to the hole, and he can finish around the basket. I wish he had. From what I've seen, I haven't seen much of a left hand around the basket. I mean, he can handle the ball. He's a good ball handler, and he can handle with his left. But I don't see. He sort of finesses it with his right on the left side of the basket, which I'm not super fond of. But yeah, I think he's a good choice for Michigan. I think he's the kind of program guy that will be happy in a couple of years that we have.
Yeah, you can grow him up, and then you just like how he would fit as you look at this in-state contingent. To get back to Darius Acuff and Trey McKinney in the class behind him, two guys that Michigan is recruiting vigorously against a lot of competition, because those two dudes are already national recruits, have racked up big time offers, and he knows them, connected with them, game would fit with them, going to help recruit them. That's a big deal if you can string it together, if it helps you get other guys too, which you hope that is the case. And he said those two guys in particular, Darius and Trey, are two guys in particular that he's already started to work on. So you hope that can reap some dividends down the line as well.
Those are going to be hard pulls for Michigan or Michigan State, just because everybody wants those two guys.
So Trey comes from a Michigan family.
Mm-hmm.
He comes from like a diehard Michigan family. Grandma and granddad, U of M Flint alums. I've known his mom and his aunt my whole life. So I know. Now, that doesn't mean that Michigan is going to get him. But what I'm saying is Michigan has transfer. Michigan has ends, and now they aren't the only ones that have ends, because when it became clear Trey was a prospect, I remember this. So Nate used to be a coach. He used to be the coach at Romulus, right? Nate Oates used to be the coach at Romulus. Well, his aunt was a teacher at Romulus. And so when he found out that Trey was he called up his aunt and said, "Hey, is Trey McKinney your nephew?" Offer was right then and there. So Alabama, my point is Alabama has some ends there Two, everyone's recruiting the guy. You can't expect that because you have, proximity and connections that you're going to be able to get it done. But I like where Michigan is early in that recruitment. Darius Acuff, the word is that he's at the top of the board. Like maybe as far as backcourt guys go, he may be at the top of the board regardless of class. That's how high Michigan is on Darius Acuff right now.
Okay.
Now, problem for them is his stock is going through the roof at the moment. If you have not been paying attention to Darius Acuff on the AAU scene, then you are not privy to what the buzz is about him. And that is this dude, before all is said and done, yeah, Michigan State, they came through with offers here recently, but he's going to have every high major in the country before all is said and done, and maybe by the end of the summer. So that's how
Maybe
well
we shouldn't be criticizing Michigan's NIL on this podcast while his uncle's listening.
So anyway, man, hey, they need some good momentum. Hopefully Darrell Brooks can help them with that, right? Hopefully he can be the start of something and get these in-state guys to stay home. He said something interesting to me after the fact. He could have gone to one of these national IMG or anything like that. He had opportunities to do that. So, man, I want to stay home and build it here. Can you cultivate that sort of thought process from a recruiting perspective as well? Get all these in-state guys to go to the same school like they used to back in the day. Can Jawan kind of weave that or put that narrative out there and grow it? Is going to be an interesting question. So went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but a meaningful one. I think I do want to get you guys' take on. I mean, Michigan is a lacrosse school now, guys. Just all of a sudden, they are fighting for maybe a national championship, Craig. And this is the program that is 12 years. I think 12 years in from club to this point, something like that.
Yeah, it's a new program at Michigan. They've come a long way in a short time. I think their coach I hear him on your show, and he seems, like a really thoughtful, positive guy. I don't know a lot about lacrosse. It's one of the few sports I haven't ever played at all. And so I can't really say that
they play number one Duke. They play number one Duke.
Right. And they did, but Duke, I think, has been close with teams that Michigan has beaten this year.
Yeah, they had a one-goal victory over Delaware, who Michigan beat at Delaware earlier this season.
Right. So if it's transitive. We always, look down our noses at transitive stuff, but it has some meaning in that if you look at how have they done against similar competition, does have some meaning, and at least in a big sphere of, how good are these teams? Can they compete? Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at what Duke has done and what Michigan's done, the answer should be, yeah, Michigan can compete. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean they're going to beat Duke, but it does mean they should be competitive.
All right. Another shout out. Men's tennis still alive too, Craig?
Yes, they are. Women's tennis lost last night against Georgia, who was number 3, but that was deceptive. If you look at the scores, they were going to win at number 1. I think Jaden had a good chance of winning at 2. That was in the 3rd set when they stopped. They lost the doubles point in a tiebreaker, and they lost 7-6, 7-5 at the number 5 match. And number 6 was still going, and that was going to go to 3 sets, it looked like. So, I mean, even though they lost, this was certainly one that Michigan could have won. It was a very, very close competition. Now, I don't think they were going to get beyond that. However, Michigan next year, as I said last week, has everyone back on this women's team, and except for one player, Dre Serdon, and they're bringing in 2 excellent players, one who's a top 5 in the country. So this is a program that really should be fun to watch. Men, we'll see. They've got a really tough match against, I think they play TCU tonight. I don't know if you can see it anywhere, but
Yeah, Ira, if you can grab the times
Mhm.
for men's tennis and for lacrosse, we will give those times
Tennis
out.
is tonight at 7:30, I believe. Lacrosse is Saturday at 2:30. Lacrosse is on ESPNU. Tennis was
Okay.
online somewhere.
Yeah, it may be online, but when I went to look at women's, you had to pay, you had to buy some subscription, so I didn't. And who knows what the video will look like, because it could be like looking through a fishbowl. But the men's team, yeah, we'll see. I think they've got a shot at against TCU. And it's a good program. So it's nice to see lacrosse, tennis doing well. Michigan baseball swept their games this week, so they're not dead yet either.
Yeah, so I wanted to segment some time for this national news coming out of the ACC. Now, the week started with this word from Brett McMurphy, who seems like he's in the know when it comes to a lot of this expansion talk. He made a comment in the interview that Washington and Oregon had been vetted and cleared by the Big Ten. I didn't know what did he mean by that? Any digging on that, Seth? What do you make of that?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what that means. They were vetted, they were cleared, and then we looked at how much money each one of them bring in. And to be part of the Big Ten, for the Big Ten to add anybody, they don't just have to be a median level team. They have to be a mean average, make more money than the mean right now, which means when you average up Michigan and Ohio State and USC and Penn State and Nebraska and what those schools bring in with all the Rutgers and Michigan States that they're carrying, that has to be more. The school has to bring in more. So there's very few schools that can do that. And when they looked at Washington and Oregon and what those schools could actually bring to the conference, they decided that they didn't bring in enough. I'm a little surprised because Oregon was listed in 2021 as one of the better, was one of the bigger teams out there, but they're still not close to FSU, Miami, Clemson, Virginia, UNC, and Duke. Those are the schools that actually have money that they're bringing in from football. Louisville thinks that they're there, but when people look at their numbers, they're not.
That was funny.
And then
it was so funny. So for folks who aren't following along, and I got to get Brian in on this to tell you if you think my theory on this is plausible. We have been hearing for years now that this grant of rights deal that the ACC has its members locked into goes to 2036. But that if a certain number of teams got together and decided they wanted to leave, that they could break the deal without penalty. I don't know what that number is, but apparently there was this group of 7 programs that included Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina that were meeting with Jim Phillips down at the ACC meetings. And no one could say for sure what they were talking about, but the speculation was this is grant of rights deal. My theory is they were telling him, look, you want us to stay? You want us to not try to break this deal? Make sure we get a bigger cut of this pie that is currently being broken up equally. Does that make sense to you? What do you make of this talk coming out of the ACC?
Well, I mean, to me, it feels like there's only a certain number of programs that have a place to go. Like, would the SEC take Clemson and Florida State? Yes. Would they take UNC? I don't actually know about that. Would they take Duke? I don't actually know about that either. So, like, the programs, there can't be enough ACC programs that want to break the grant of rights that would find a home. Like Wake Forest isn't breaking the grant of rights, right? That's not happening. So to me, this is just posturing and negotiation, and that I just doesn't feel to me like it's plausible. Like, what the only thing that you could do, I guess, is like break away and form your own conference and leave some of the what you feel is dead weight behind. But that feels like, I mean, how much upside is there in that? I don't know.
And
Yeah,
what's the
I
dead
don't know how
weight?
Louisville was a part of that group, Craig. Like Louisville
Yeah.
was like, we're like, look at me. But yeah, Clemson would have a place to land.
Mhm.
I wonder if Florida State would even choose the SEC over the Big Ten. And I think the Big Ten would love to have Florida State.
I mean, they'd have to get over the AAU thing, which they still. I mean, when they
Florida State's
invited
in the
Nebraska
AAU.
in, huh?
Florida State's in the AAU, aren't they?
Are they?
I don't think so.
I wasn't aware that they're in.
I
go check
have
real quick,
never contemplated adding Florida State to the Big Ten, so I haven't checked.
Ira, can you check and see if Florida State's
I
AAU?
don't. I want to swear to it, but I thought they weren't. But I could be
I
wrong.
thought they were.
They are not, but they are a top
Mhm.
60 school in U.S. News and World Reports, but they are not in the AAU.
Yeah.
All right. Well, top 60. Maybe that gets you. That's higher than Nebraska, right?
So
Higher than
Yeah.
Michigan State.
So top 60 is the number, and we're not talking about in education anymore. And everyone kind of sees where this is all going, right? Eventually, they're going to have to pay the players a piece of the pie, not just letting them get, not just paying them under the table. There's going to have to be some sort of revenue sharing. So what they're doing is, and the reason why we're having all this discussion, why the Big Ten's adding these schools right now, and everybody's doing this, is because they know they need to have a big enough pie to share it with the players in the future. So when they're looking down that road, everyone in the Big Ten is like, "Oh, I'm good." Anyone in the SEC is, "I'm good." Everyone not in those two conferences is wondering if they're going to be part of it when there's a break. And there's going to be a break between we're long overdue for a Division I break again, where like the top 60 schools are going to leave. So when that happens, there's probably going to be like a Big Ten, an SEC, and an other. And you don't want to be left in the other.
I don't see that happening because the benefits for football are minimal, right? Like the top schools in football already get to do whatever they want to do. And that busts up the most profitable thing in sports, which is the NCAA tournament. So I just do not see D1 fragmenting. I think that it's going to continue down the path where there's clearly like some schools that are it and some schools that are mid-majors, but they're going to all stay in the same we can play each other arena, I believe.
I think they're going to fracture overpaying the players over the contract.
We will pick this up next week with ACC meetings. We'll have some feedback. We're going to talk to Andrea Adelson, for instance, who is at ACC meetings. So we'll have some more information to go on when we come back for next week's roundtable. So be sure to tune in for that, folks. You can always follow these guys over at MGoBlog.com. We got to get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTK, the Ticket, the official voice of the University of Michigan Sports, Ann Arbor, the Cumulus Station.
Great stuff, fellas. And the broadcast on the